Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's class. Tonight we are studying Parashat Vayera, and Rav Shimshon Pincus has a, in my opinion, short but powerful lesson that we all need to learn. And this week we start reading about the 10 plagues, the first 7 specifically that God sent to the Egyptians for multiple reasons. Reason number 1 was in order to show his great strength and to instill the belief and trust into the Jewish people first and foremost, to know that their God is the creator God, the God that they have been longing ever since Abraham has been seeking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's real. He's the real thing. And the second reason was also in order to punish the Egyptians, to punish them for their mistreating of the Jewish people. And also, as a third reason, the Shimshon makes this very clear, in order to prove to Paro personally that he was wrong in his assumptions and his disregarding of God. He considered himself a god, and no one and nothing else mattered. And God wanted to prove a point to him that he was 100% wrong in that. The second of the 10 plagues is the plague of Tzvardea, frogs. Now, if we look at the terminology of how this plague came about, Exodus chapter 8, verse 2, it says, Vayeta Haron et yado, and Aaron stretched his arm forth al mimei Mitzrayim, over the waters of Egypt, Vatal hatzfardea, and the frog came up, emerged from the water, vatechas et eretz Mitzrayim, and covered the land of Egypt. Rashi asks the obvious question. He says, why does it say that a frog, a singular frog, came out of Egypt? It should say vata'al hatzfardim or vata'alu hatzfardim. Many of them should have came up. Why is it in singular? See, the translation is incorrect over here. The translation is, and the frogs came up. It's the frog. This word over here that I've highlighted is in singular. So Rashi says, why would it be singular? He answers that something very, very odd happened. It was one large frog, like a dinosaur size, that came out, emerged from the Nile River, and it was like roaring and burping as frogs do. It was driving them crazy. So what did? They grabbed their sticks to the Egyptians, they started whacking it and whacking it. Every single time they whacked it, the burp opened up and screamed and scram, and while it opened its mouth, swarms of frogs streamed through, just came out, more and more and more frogs. Rav Pincus now quotes the Stipler Gaon, who makes an amazing observation, one that is very practical for us all. And the observation is that the more the Egyptians hit the frog, the more frogs swarmed out. If they would have stopped hitting the frog, there wouldn't have been as many frogs. Asks the Stipler, why did they keep on hitting the frog? You hit the frog, you see more frogs are coming, 1 time, twice, 3 times, you make the mistake. Enough. How many times are you going to trip on the same stair? You're going to stop. Answers the Stipler, because this is how dangerous the rotten trait of anger is. That every time that frog made another noise, it annoyed the Egyptians, it got them angry, and they hit it again. And again, and again, and again, and they were boiling with anger until the entire country was covered in frogs, as the Torah just said. Pincus says this is how anger works. It doesn't make any sense. But their blood was boiling, and they lashed out of anger. if they would have paused, where Pincus says, just thought about, realize what's going on, they'll realize that they're hurting themselves. And that is something that anger normally does. Anger bites a person back. The person who suffers the most from anger is not the one receiving the anger, it's the one expressing and acting angry. In life, you could be insulted, and you have the opportunity to stay silent. Just wait, let it pass. And then you could answer and speak rationally or act rationally. But if you answer right away, 9 out of 10 times you're heated, and the consequences are serious and irreversible. The fact is that someone who's angry has very little control. It's the way God created us. It's a trait that we all have to work on. The actions done in a person's state of anger are most of the time regretted, Rav Pincus says. Now, the plague of frogs is actually just one example of how the Egyptians failed. If the Egyptians would have been honest with themselves and rationally thought about their situation, and they wouldn't have been so stubborn about letting the Jewish people go, they could have spared themselves from the rest of the plagues, even after blood, and then even after frogs and making all the mistakes with the frogs. If they would have just stopped and said, you know what? Blood came, frogs, let's rid themselves. There's got to be something real over here. No, their stubbornness, their pride, their anger ruined their lives. All the way until each and every miracle to follow, they still were stubborn and angry. This brought them to their death. It brought them to drowning in the Mediterranean Sea, or in the Sea of Reeds. Sorry. We aren't too different, Rav Pincus says. If we think about it, how do you handle pain? Do you overthink it? Do you take it personally? Do you allow yourself to get agitated about it? Or do you take a deep breath and go through it and work through it? Examples of people insulting you, or raising their voice at you, or having to wait an extra 5 or 10 minutes or half an hour even. We're all busy. We're all trying to manage our time well. But are those 5 or 10 minutes extra that you're waiting for, whatever it may be, waiting in line at the store, waiting to find a parking spot, whatever it may be, is getting angry and worked up over it worth that agitation or not? Rather, if a person just relaxes and stays calm without anger, nothing bad's going to happen. At the end of the day, when you're waiting for these different things, you getting angry doesn't help the situation. If anything, it makes it worse. It makes it seem longer and harder to overcome. So Rav Pincus is teaching us it's all in our mind. The decision is, how do we react? And how do we react is our decision. This is, in fact, the secret to living an enjoyable life. It's being calm, patient, and eradicating anger. Because anger literally destroys. And we learn this from the mistake that the Egyptians did with all the plagues, but starting off specifically with this idea, this ridiculous idea of going back and whacking and hitting the frog over and over and over, which initially and eventually also hurt themselves. Let us not make this mistake. Let us not act out of anger. That will hurt us, unfortunately. Anger destroys, and the danger of anger is real. And we all, in our own levels, have somewhere where we could work on our anger to being calm, more relaxed, patient, and accepting, and we'll only benefit from that. B'ezrat Hashem, amen v'amen.